No, wait. I was thinking of the previous PVT. Yeah, my brain's just scrambled, man. So yeah, apparently that was the third game, and it was a 3-0. So Battle be actually kicking a lot of ass. Damn. Okay, jump into mid-series once again. This time knowingly mid-series. Bottom left is Harstem, top right is ArT. And we have Harstem up 1-0. So after this, we'll move down to the lower bracket qualifying matches, maybe only get one more series. That's fine. So PvP, something that's probably a little scary to go into when you're trying to qualify for something, but I don't know, I think it's kind of been... It's leveled out in my eyes, where maybe it's still the more volatile matchup than the other ones. You know, it's more volatile just because of the matchup, and not because you're necessarily worse at it than you are another matchup. But I feel like there's generally a hierarchy of Protosses. Who's the best at Protoss versus Protoss, who's not as good in Protoss versus Protoss. And Harstem's pretty good. And Harstem seems to be in a very good place competition-wise. He did really well in the Caster Civil War, which is a very different type of format, but I think if it does anything, it proves how flexible and dependable Harstem is, because he only lost, I think, 2 of his games. So that's pretty impressive, actually. As he went up against a plethora of characters, you know, characters he might have been better than, but are still kind of cheesy. Could absolutely win one game against them. Players who he necessarily wasn't supposed to beat and still beat. And yeah, it's a best of 1, blah blah blah. But still, so I just think Harstem's in a good place, and you know he's definitely in a good place since he's up a game. ArT's a very unfamiliar name for many of you because he has not, I think, made it into DreamHack Masters. I'm going to double check that. But he is most often seen kind of hovering around the round of 16, more likely the round of 32 in those open cups. Oh, we got into both summers, actually. Okay. So, I mean, in my defense, that's still over a year where I don't really see him in competitive play, but he made it in summer 2020 and 21. And this is kind of the equivalent of summer. So, maybe it's a good luck charm for him. I don't think he's going to defeat Harstem, but maybe he'll have a run in the lower bracket. We are watching a proxy Stargate get thrown down. And it is not yet scouted. Harstem knows that the second pylon was at home. So that must have been the third pylon. Or did he get a rescout? Did he see no second and then actually got back in and saw that it was the third pylon? No, ArT just made an extra pylon. We look at the supply cap right now. So Harstem's pretty keen on figuring out what the hell is going on, because he's not sure. Just because you see what looks to be a very normal thing in PvP, you never really are gonna trust that. So he gets that scout again, sees that it's the Twilight Council, sees that Nexus was put down, but should still be cautious since nothing else is happening. There's not really any reason to not get like a shield back to the natural, and to get stalkers in the main base. The only thing you have to be worried about splitting his army in such a way is that if ArT was attacking him head on, which everything he just scouted said that if there was an attack head on, you know, a shield battery would cover it. Because it's not dedicated. And ArT is just going to wait for 2 oracles, figuring that there's going to be a shield battery. There is not a shield battery, but we do now have 3 stalkers. I think Harstem has picked up on just that something is missing. Again, I wasn't paying attention to the order of pylons and how much of a convincing image that was, but we did see the later Twilight Council. So with that late of a Twilight Council, again, you can kind of compare it to your own and say, well, why was it delayed? What else could be happening? And Proxy Oracle is one of those things. Oh, and one of them dies, too. Yeah, that's unfortunate. 3 probes was not enough to really make up for it, but the possibility, the potential of 2 oracles is, I suppose, technically limitless. You know, they can pierce through any shield batteries that are then added on. They can do a bunch of stasis wards, there we go, instead of just 1. That kind of sucks. Another hallucination to see if maybe there's an attack on the way. So what this sees is a 3rd gateway tucked in the back, and then also no forge, and no robo either. So it's just a lot of signs of not thinking of the future, or even necessarily thinking defensively. Because a robo is often pushed off for a decent amount of time if you're going to open up with Blink Stalkers. The forge is usually thrown down either faster or more around the time that Harstem has thrown down his. And if there's a robo, well, that actually might just make you think of a Warp Prism, to be honest. Point is, Harstem should have known this attack was on the way, or something like this attack was on the way, so he was pretty quick to cancel his 3rd Nexus. He didn't try and safeguard it, which if he had gotten completely bamboozled by the location of the army, he could have lost his, maybe, sentries, and then his 3rd base also gets canceled, right? And that's a little bit more of a head start for ArT. I mean, at the end of the day, Harstem had faster blink, so it's not like he would have been stuck there, but ArT would have gotten something a little bit more than just a canceled 3rd Nexus, which isn't quite enough, as now at this point... Oh, 2 canceled Nexus, that's pretty good. We're talking about making up for an entire upgrade. Oh, the stasis trap. Oh, the stasis! Oh, Harstem realized half a second too late. And hey, those sentries do die. ArT's on the chase. He knows that he can win this particular fight. Shield battery overcharge, though, always intimidating, and knowing you're on a timer as well. The last thing you want to have happen is for you to become the sandwich. The blink is on cooldown? No, it's off cooldown, so... Oh, Harstem, I think, meant to only get 1 in there, but good enough. It's actually kind of a crazy engagement. 17 Stalkers of 15, -2. It's an equal number of Stalkers. The Stalkers for Harstem now have +1, 13 more seconds. And he has an Immortal. Big Daddy Immortal is going to make sure that ArT finds no more damage. But arguably, ArT has found enough damage. Oh, and a misblink there, too, from Harstem. Harstem is starting to mishandle this a little bit. Right, that stasis trap was pretty big because it bought so much time for ArT to say, like, okay, my 3rd base isn't just 20 seconds ahead, it's done. It is, like, getting on 2 minutes ahead of you. So Harstem is falling behind quite a bit. And that +1 attack isn't necessarily going to make up for, let's check the actual income graph. Isn't going to make up for this staying at that for minutes, right, until his own 3rd Nexus finishes. That's a big difference. Every time tick goes by, imagine that 900 minerals put into, what, 4 Stalkers, or 9 charge lots, because he's the one that's working on charge. It's a big difference. And I think Harstem, is going for the Disruptor play, not because it's necessarily his first idea, but rather because he figures that he's a little bit behind. He's got to do something different. If he were to also go for charge and just say, well, at least I have this upgrade lead, I would say he'd get overwhelmed. It can be a bit tricky because upgrade lead plus good defensive posturing, shield battery overcharge especially, like that can cover quite a bit of supply. But I think it would be extremely difficult to go up against ArT's economy with the exact same composition. So changing your composition, I mean, at least it creates some type of volatility. Something that can be different. And of course, in the case of disruptors, it can be a huge difference because they can get a great shot. But the downside is you don't have a whole lot of units to necessarily cover all your bases. Literally, you don't have a lot of units to cover your bases. So the idea is you still could be overwhelmed. The disruptors kind of have to, either get a great shot or threaten a great shot is really a lot of what they do. So they posture around a choke and they say, you come to me. No, you don't want to? Yeah, tough guy. That's what I thought. And then ArT kind of gets frustrated, maybe misblinks, maybe misengages, maybe decides, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to go to my own disruptors. Whatever it is. If that was a dodge on 1 disruptor shot and there's only a 2nd one available, 3rd disruptor is about to pop out, and that is good news because the 2nd disruptor also did not hit enough. And is this one going to get something? It gets 2 zealots, if that. Harstem is around a shield battery overcharge, which isn't really going down all that quickly, so a lot of shots were used right there, but oh, that was a good Disruptor shot. Harstem now takes the supply lead because he's also dealing probe damage back at home. Disruptor is not getting any more shots, however, as they were on the front lines. The Stalkers not letting them retreat back up into that main base. Could be why Harstem still loses this game. The Disruptor pops out, but it's not shooting. It's going to be targeted down, or no, yes! It was targeted down. The Immortals are going to live. Good blink on top of that War Prism, though, from Harstem. He's trying to hold on here. He takes down the Immortal, but it is too much damage as ArT had a 4th base on the way and still had an equal number of probes. He was going to rebuild much better. Damn close, though. Damn close. One more decent Disruptor shot, and I think Harstem holds. He's still behind economically, because he still probably loses those probes, and ArT's the one that, again, is getting that 4th base up, but I think he would have held. And now game 3, the tied-up series. I'm going to put it on the lobby screen and be right back. And now it's Pride of Alteris. Bottom right, Harstem. Top left, ArT. His initial Blink Stalker attack didn't look like it was going to cause game-ending damage, and then, thanks to a cheeky stasis trap, it did snowball. It really snowballed off of that. The second Nexus cancel was kind of a ouch. First one was expected, second one was an ouch. Still not a big enough deficit to say that that was game deciding. Stasis trap kind of made it more game deciding. And then on top of that stasis trap, we had a bit of a misblink Stalkers, and we had a third Nexus cancel. So it really was, you know, what was it, 4 things? One of them being especially big, the stasis trap. If it were two things had happened, I think Harstem recovers decently enough. If one thing happened, it's no big deal. If 0 things happened, then Harstem was in the lead because he had that upgrade lead. Mightiest Chicken, thank you for the tier 1 sub. Are you going to lead the chickens free? Are you the chicken that the chickens in Chicken Run needed to be free? I don't remember if they escape or not in that movie. Someone's gonna have to tell me. Ah, Harstem is gonna go for some cheese. Pride of Alteris, so initially was looked at as a very likely fast expand map. Because again, the idea with fast expands is that if you have a natural choke ramp, most importantly the ramp, then you can get away with it. Max Packs argues you can get away with it everywhere, but he's Max Packs. But then I think actually kind of quickly the sentiment that it's a fast expand map was argued against, and then it was lost. And a lot of Protoss players, I want to say it's just not anymore. Oh, but this is really cheeky. So Harstem proxies a Stargate. ArT is going to see nothing. Just kidding. So if he saw that lack of pylon, then he would have been very suspicious of either proxy Stargate, which is very non-committal, or maybe even a proxy Robo, which is very committal, and then he would really have to be scared about his faster Nexus. But it is a Stargate, and it is scouted. Yeah, he's gonna go back and see it now. What's cheeky about it is that it's a gold base with it. So this proxy Stargate, that's good information for ArT. Again, knows that it's not really so committal. He has to worry about dying. But he does have to wonder what else is happening. So good news for ArT is that he's going to completely scout. This is pretty important, I would say. You know, you don't see the natural nexus, and you go through two options, right? One option, okay, are they like 3-gate stargating me? Like, am I gonna have a bunch of army heading into my natural? Or it's part of Alteris, are they getting a gold base? So I think ArT sending another probe is going to look for that. Exactly. I think. Well, kind of an odd way to do it, but yeah, he does. So this looks like a probe scout that was looking for proxied gateways, perhaps, and or also checked out the gold base. But it's a really good thing that he also checked down the gold base, because if he just sent a vertical line of scout queues, I'd be really worried. But he didn't, so it's all good. So, I mean, it's kind of a weird situation, right? Because initially, with Harstem going for the later Nexus, it's kind of the onus is on Harstem to do damage. Now, with ArT knowing that it's a gold base that his opponent took, even if it was later, it's now the onus is on ArT to do damage. As Harstem will have a similar, in this case, even slightly greater number of probes, but mining better minerals. Oh, and his option is a Dark Shrine. Alright, so Harstem has opened up with a decent amount of stalkers. No sentries, because he has an Oracle. He's going to be able to scout a lot of his opponent's base. Not all of his opponent's base, and that is a big difference between a hallucination and just an Oracle. But a lot of it. And then if he is bamboozled, the Oracle does have Revelation. It can't detect. Now, that's not a super dependable detection, because the Oracle is going to be out and about, because it can only cast Revelation every so often, and it's energy-based, so it can run out of energy. The Oracle is a, thank goodness I have it, but I could still be screwed unit. And I've talked about this extensively, but the idea usually with opening up Twilight Council Blink is that you're going to delay your Robo as long as you kind of think you can. You don't really have to add on the Immortals. You don't really have to add on an Observer if there's no Dark Shrine. You don't necessarily use a Warp Prism. You're already mobile enough with Blink Stalkers. So that's what ArT's pretty much trying to take advantage of, is that he's not going to get completely scouted because there's not going to be hallucination, and that his opponent is going to be a greedy little boy and actually just go for pure gateway, no Robo. Which is still greedy, because again, Harstem is not totally forgetting or is totally screwed against Dark Templars, but he could have trouble with them. In this case, with the Oracle being stationed at home, it looks like he might have picked up on the fact that it's a Dark Templar or just been really wary of it. So not just that, oh, if it is, then I'll still be okay, but actually saying, you know what, that'd be really annoying. I'm gonna look for a DT. And as such, this is one of the more effective Oracle-based defenses of DTs that I've seen. 7 probes still went down, but Harstem was also smart enough to get a cannon at his gold. Make that 9. Where the freak is another probe going down? Where is this happening? I'm so confused. I am actually so confused. What? How did he lose 4 more probes? Did he had a misrally? Were his probes rallying into the army? This guy's coming back, and that's awkward. Okay, well that makes 2 DTs more worth. All right, just gonna move past that one. So anywho, Harstem has 3 Nexus, ArT has 3 Nexus. They both have a good number of probes, because again, remember, gold base. Not as many probes necessary. And on this overlay, you look at the arrows, there's no arrows. Oh, they must be pretty close in income. That's totally something people will understand right as they look at the overlay. But ArT does have a decent more number of probes, so he is mining a little bit more. Once again, he has found himself behind on those upgrades. So the DTs, plus, I guess, a miss rally on the probes, you know, kind of hurt Harstem for sure, but not really enough to make up for what is a full upgrade, I think. Yeah. So ArT's gonna go into Disruptors, and I don't think this is like that oh shit Disruptor, but it might be. You might recognize that he's behind on the upgrade. And a little wary. But he also might just think this is the way that this game is going. Either way, he's getting Disruptors. Harstem getting into Charge, Blink, Archon. So he's going to be the attacker. You know, Harstem does have a bit of a timer, right? Gold base, great for a limited amount of time. Then it runs out super quickly. And if you don't consider that, if you don't prepare for that, then you could find yourself basically jacked up on roids and then out of juice. And you come crashing down. I don't really think that's how steroid use works, but that's fine. Sticking with the analogy. I'm pretty sure ArT is totally okay. I really feel like ArT's gonna be fine here. 2 Disruptors, about to be 4. The lack of upgrade does hurt, but defensively postured on the high ground with a Guardian Shield and a Shield Battery Overcharge, and Disruptors throwing out balls left and right. Yeah, Harstem's not gonna crack that too easily. And actually about to lose his Warp Prism, because I think ArT sees it. Whoa! That's a bold blink with only your Stalkers. And he did not go after the Warp Prism. Oh, but that's a bold blink from Harstem. Who thankfully does run away just in time. Only loses a Stalker to the Disruptor. Checks on the 4th base, and ArT might have to cancel that. Oh my god. I kind of want him to get the Warp Prism at this point. Alright, Harstem moves it away. And Harstem did grab a 4th base already, so the fact that his gold base is soon to mine out is no longer as much of a problem. His new problem is the Disruptor count, right? You kind of all shucks when you realize that they have kind of... what's the word? They've done fine while getting into Disruptors. They didn't die. And you go, oh, shucks. Now I don't know how I'm going to kill this guy. I guess I have to go into my own Disruptors. If you're doing it pretty slow, if you're just sitting there all shucksing the entire time and not getting into your own Disruptors, oh, this is awkward. This is super awkward. For ArT's sake, that was super awkward. Then the fact that you're behind 7 Disruptors is really scary. Now that's only peak scary when ArT is on Harstem's side of the map. Kind of like the same thing with Liberators, you know? Like... Liberators make it harder to break the Terran from the Protoss side, and they go, oh, damn it, I was so close to breaking this guy, and I could deal with Liberators. But the Liberators aren't going to kill you unless they get siege up on your side of the map. Kind of the same thing with Disruptors. So, Harstem should have time to play around with, but he does need to get cracking on the Robo production. Adds his own Dark Shrine, too, because we are headed into... officially late game PvP, where we're not just talking about Disruptors versus Disruptors, we're talking about 5 base versus 5 base, we're talking about large warp-ins of charge lots or DTs. ArT doesn't have charge lots, so not so much that for him, but DTs, because he did go for Blink. Supply currently favorable for Harstem, but, you know, Disruptors, what do they care? What do they care about 8 Stalkers, you know? But Harstem is doing an excellent job buying all this time, not only patrolling around the map, but also getting a run by? How did he... Oh, he must have ferried the Archons in and then warped in Zealots. Yeah, that makes sense. Funnily enough, it's not the most effective run by because he got choked up. But it is distracting ArT, so ArT lost track of the army and is not quite in position to guard his 4th base, but he still has Disruptors and Harstem doesn't, so that's still a big problem. If Harstem had gotten there even faster, maybe he could have sniped that Nexus down, but ArT just had to show up with Disruptors, and Harstem had to respect that. Harstem's gold base is very close to just completely mining out, so it is going to be back to a 4 base versus 4 base situation. Not only is his gold base mining out, but the main as well, similar timing to ArT, so actually very similar on the economy. Apparently Harstem's still winning out a little bit. And Harstem already finished up that +3 attack, so his Stalkers, right, pound for pound, they're better, and he just has more of them too. It's 7 Disruptors versus 4. 4, you can count them. 7 gets harder to count, gets harder to find a fight where they don't have any shots available. Oh, and freebie Disruptor for ArT right there. There's the blink forward, try and capture that Nexus. I said this would be possible if he was fast enough, but now he has the Disruptors. And that one Disruptor just made sure that ArT couldn't get close enough to punish. So that's a good snipe. Oh, well, this is even better. That snipe plus the DTs at third base just got destroyed, man. Blink of an eye. Some DTs on Harstem's side of the map, and the cannon was the first thing ArT went for, so it's going to cause more damage. He has to blink out as soon as he sees a recall, as he knows that recall has an observer in it. But ArT has found some wiggle room at the very least. He's evened up the worker kills, and his fourth base was put down pretty quickly. It looks like it had to be re-put down. It was once again canceled. It's not game-ending. It's not game-ending, even though he has now officially been... He's been low on economy for a while at this point. It's really not game-ending when you have 7 disruptors, about to have 8. He's finally adding on some of those good upgrades, like +3 in charge as well. So he still is going to get maxed out. He's still going to have a good disruptor count. And Harstem's going to have a tough time breaking someone who has a good disruptor count. Simple as that. Especially on a map where you have that high ground, as long as you are playing defensively. So the way a PvP is going to try and break such a turtled up defense is going into air. Same as TVT. So eventually Harstem will start trading out some of these units and adding on Stargates and a Fleet Beacon. Not yet, but he is preparing. He's got that +1 air attack on the way. Might still need a couple more cannons before feeling awfully secure against these DTs. There's enough cannons here if the DTs don't come from behind. Just the weird thing. And there's the transition underway. There you go. There you have it. I don't know what probe is doing it, though. Oh, there you are. No observer? Because it was sniped here earlier? It's interesting that he has an observer up here. Keep checking to see if it's a war prism. Whoa. Whoa, that was aggressive. Holy shit, that was aggressive. And that blink from ArT was also kind of aggressive, since he didn't actually know where Harstem's disruptors were. That seemed a bit lucky on both sides. Another one had vision. This is where an Oracle getting a revelation can be really big. This is where one blink... Oh my god. What? He had blink available. Why didn't he blink? Ouch. Sorry, this is where your revelation helps or one stalker blinks forward and goes, up. Good to blink, guys. Let's go. But they're playing with fire. ArT, yeah, definitely could have blinked. I guess he just figured it wasn't actually happening. Maybe he was looking away for just a one hot second. I don't know. But that was a lot of lost stalkers. I want to say 10. Looks like there's a proxy pylon just got cleaned up. Harstem is continuing to expand, whereas ArT has been stuck on 4 bases. And not even 4 bases for a little while, so while he is trying to keep tempo with Harstem's late game PvP, and again, it's very much like TVT, where you don't get the comfort of maxing out on those mid-level units and playing around with them like the guy who's ahead of you gets to do. You kind of have to just already prepare for the late game. ArT's getting into Tempest. So he's not just preparing for the late game, he's probably even preparing to be behind the late game, which I say that because carriers are usually what you get first. If you think you're going to be okay to get them, basically. Tempests are almost always the response unit. And while Tempests do outrange carriers and very technically are supposed to counter them because their range is better, we all know how that actually works in real life, and that is the carriers get locked on to the Tempest just for 1 second, the Tempest dies, gets the glass cannon, and the carrier guy might still win the game. But I gotta give a lot of respect to ArT for being able to identify that and still able to afford this transition, because he has been struggling. A lot of these engagements not going well for him, and again, locked on 4 bases a lot longer than Harstem, who has banked quite a mineral bank. Not so much gas, but he's also been doing a great job continuing to upgrade, and obviously has that faster Stargate transition. And yeah, 4 Stargates to 3. Some more harassment, since ArT never really had the ability to just slap down a bunch of cannons to defend. He's working on more bare bone situation. He's gonna bother getting a Tempest upgrade, and that is kind of weird. It's one of those things that is almost default to getting Tempests, which is understandable. You get Tempest, you get their upgrade. But I'd say if you were in a bit of a desperate spot, I don't know how useful the upgrade is in PvP. You know, it's literal, like, reason for existing is more to do with clearing out spore colony forests, but anywho. See if it comes into play. ArT once again taking disruptors to the face a little bit. And it looks like currently the hotkey is not quite set up. Doesn't look like it's Tempest are on a different hotkey. I'm sure will be fixed. or utilized very soon. Because one thing the Tempest can do very well is shoot down disruptors. If they have vision. If they have vision. Oh, Mama Ship, speaking of vision. Harstem has plenty of observers. He lost his 4th, still has 3. And disruptors, even if they're blindly firing, will still connect with invisible units. So this is where the Oracle is invested into from the proxy Stargate. Oh, hell yeah. Oh, from behind, from behind. Wait, no, that was Harstem's disruptor. Oh, lol. Oh, that one is a good shot. ArT is bleeding out stalkers yet again, and while that might be okay in a lot of other types of games, I don't know if it's okay in this type of game. He's now 30 supply down, but Harstem, yeah, he just warped in a bunch of DTs. I actually wonder if he warped them in for Archons, if he could really push the issue. But I don't know if he realizes... Nah, yeah, it's hard to say. Well, he just got 2 disruptors right there. It's hard to, like, you can't really push the issue even if you think your army's bigger, if your opponent still has disruptors, right? Still has disruptors and still has some stack defense. It's kind of hard to say, like, oh, I think my air or my ground army will still win. But Harstem is, very importantly, still working on a ground army, despite going up to 4 Stargates initially, and now up to 6, and getting those upgrades. He's never really started just the transition. It's like he doesn't want to play with a Tempest versus Tempest. He wanted to get to carriers faster and without competition, and once he realized that it wasn't going to be without air competition, he said, you know what, I'm going to go with the ground-based attack. I'm going to win out on the ground. Which is a choice, and it does seem to be working. Even though he hasn't kind of punched it. He has been taking down enough units that eventually he might be able to punch it. And I feel like ArT should be very wary of this. He should realize that he hasn't seen his opponent's air army, but he has seen an ever-growing number of stalkers, an ever-replacing army of the same type of army. So I think that's why he's warping in Archons, that's why he's getting in Immortals, because he realizes this is going to be a bust attempt on his army. And not some long, drawn-out Tempest carrier positioning battle. So good on him. Good on him. Harstem still has that transition in his back pocket. If his stalkers were to suddenly start picking off some of these Tempests, and then ArT couldn't afford to replace them or doesn't replace them, then Harstem could go into boom 6 carriers almost immediately. Again, his gas bank being questionable. A little surprising to go one little Tempest. It's interesting. I would have expected a full transition at this point, not a little tiny drop of air. Regardless, Harstem is able to outmaneuver ArT's slower moving army and once again grabs that 4th base. And, well, if he does recall... Oh, is he gonna recall? Oh my god. He loses all of his observers in the process. I was gonna say, if he does recall, it wouldn't have taken his entire Stalker army, so that's one of the reasons probably wouldn't have won a recall. He is able to evacuate off the right side while continuing to expand to the left side. And ArT is now finally able to take his own gold base. This has been kind of a crazy PvP. It started with a gold base and true attempts to punish each other, but they both just keep living on. It's ArT who is still on the ropes. ArT who still can't get above 150 supply has really been reduced to the best tiny composition possible. The best tiny house possible. Tiny composition that still works together even in lower numbers. It's probably Disruptors and Tempests. Tempests say, go away. And the Disruptors say, if you don't go away, I'm going to punch you. So that works if you have 5 Disruptors, 6 Tempests. And that's all you have? Unless Harstem gets one really good concave or surrounds, which is extremely possible. So ArT really needs to add in more units. No doubt about that, but this is why he's been able to live for so long. Harstem's not going to try and take that one big engagement just in case it goes terribly wrong. Because it could. It could. Oh, there's a bigger, fuller transition of Tempests. So ArT's seen, for the last 6 minutes, really nothing but rebuilding of Stalker Disruptor. So he might kind of lose track of Harstem actually transitioning. He literally loses track of the army again. right? So he's not going to see that it's not being rebuilt with Stalkers, which is one of the harder things to pick up on anyways. And now we got ourselves what looks to be a full-on base trade. This gold base no longer important, and the structures around it really no longer important. The probes aren't that important. ArT's going to have to realize this is a base trade and go for something a lot more important. Harstem kind of ditto. He goes for a Nexus, that's great, and that is still an important Nexus to ArT. We're talking about production a lot of the time in base trades. That's what's going to make someone win. What is Harstem's Tempest count, by the way? Oh, it's already at 8. Oh, ArT doesn't know that. ArT's going to run face first into a superior army. Now at 9, too. With better upgrades, not that Tempests are super slow shooting. It's not like the carrier upgrade battle, but yeah, still. I don't know if ArT... Oh my god, so many disruptors. Oh my god, so many disruptors. They're coming in from every which way from both players as well. Jesus. Harstem just lost a chunk of Stalkers. His own disruptor is starting to get gunned down. And suddenly it's ArT who's kind of winning the ground war. Not totally, though, when he's having such a difficult time replacing these units. They both are very low on that gas, but Harstem, he's got the trick up his sleeve. He's going to have 14 Tempests. And I don't see ArT expecting that. ArT might be picking up on the whole smaller army situation, but I don't think he's actually seen the amount of units. I could be wrong about that. But that recall that he was forced into was quite perfectly timed. If he had continued trying to kind of base race that one, he would have ran into the Tempest with only his own Tempest in less numbers. Now, if he comes in with everything, the carriers included, maybe he gets the Focus Fire down first, maybe he can still win this, as the Tempests have to leave. They're not doing that damage. The same is not said about the carriers whenever they're mobile, but they have carriers. They are getting one shot. And Harstem loses the only carrier that he built to the Stalkers on the ground. 12 Tempest to 6. Harstem should win this battle. The only complication is keeping his Tempest alive, and they are now abusing this particular section of the map. There's a blink forward from Harstem as well, and Harstem is going to win this engagement, because even if he doesn't, you can just warp into bajillion zealots. GG. GG. That was a very hard-fought battle. But Harstem is able to take game 3 for a 2-1 lead.
Warning. Forever this program's detected in comm server 04.
Thank you very much, Breadstick Ninja, for the 10 gifted subs. Hell yeah. And paying it forward from the gift they got. Thank you very much. Game 4 is moving on to Glittering Ashes, so an even bigger map. And that last game went 26 minutes? Bottom left, it's Harstem on Shopify Rebellion. BT dubs. And top right, it's ArT on Genji. That last game was What a doozy, because it started off in an interesting way as well. Harstem sets up the proxy and then actually takes the gold base. ArT tries to punish that a couple of different ways, but ultimately falls behind. Then stays behind, really. And not because Harstem was perfect in his follow-up. Well, actually, that is kind of the reason why. But it was less about Harstem being perfect and more about ArT continuing to make mistakes. That's what I was trying to get to. ArT continued taking some bad engagements, a couple of disruptors to the face. More often losing track of Harstem's army, which are all forced errors. Before we just say that ArT's a worse player, they're all forced by Harstem. Yes, playing the follow-up very well, but at some point, I think that ArT had that chance to really make things crazy and chaotic. He didn't really ever get that chance. He was forced to really play the defensive. I'm going to try and hope that you take a bad fight, and then he would be the one to take a bad fight. So the only time he ever got a chance to punch back was when the Dark Templar arrived. And then never again. Now he's going to try and just punch early. Strike hard, strike fast. Proxy Robo. Kind of the most intense thing you can really do. Which, by the way, I can't believe that Cobra Kai is getting his 5th season. I didn't actually end up watching the 4th season, although I thought it was much better than the previous season. No, wait. How many seasons is there? Shit. First season was great. I thought the second season really sucked. Third season was better. And then I guess I didn't watch the 4th season? Am I correct in this? They seem to be coming out really quickly nowadays. So I literally just watched the summary of what happened. Maybe I'll just pick it up at 5th one. Anywho, not what we're talking about. StarCraft. Oh, Harstem is choosing one of the worst options against early aggression, and it's very important that he sees that it's a proxy robo. So that's kind of unfortunate for ArT, who was getting the best case scenario, and if he had proxied over here, just not that he could have known, right? But if he had, then he would still be up against someone going for a Twilight Council, which doesn't actually benefit you for minutes. The structure has to finish, and the upgrade then has to start, and then has to finish. So Harstem, getting that quick of a scout, is able to cancel the Twilight Council when it was only about 10 seconds in, and then go for a Stargate instead, actually. So that Void Ray popping out is going to help him against, obviously, the Immortal, can't shoot up, but then also against the Warp Prism. You can pop it real quick with the Prismatical alignment. Oh, there's no overcharge available because the Nexus isn't done. Oh, no. An overcharge would have saved at least, well, it wouldn't have saved the Stalkers ultimately. It would have caused an extra couple of shots necessary. It does seem like Harstem's still going to have enough, though. I mean, ArT went for a blitz. He went for the idea that he was going to get there before the Nexus was done, hopefully before a shield battery was done. And as such, didn't have the Warp Prism to micro around, so his Immortal does take a lot of damage. Gonna try and head into the main base with, again, very few units, so this isn't trying to end the game here. Trying to get some semblance of damage done. But seeing as now it's a Void Ray completing, that Warp Prism has a limited lifespan, ArT has not done enough damage to try and wiggle his way out of this one. There's a lot of cases in PvP where you can do just enough damage that you following up with another all-in does the trick, or following up with a Nexus is viable. I don't think this is one of those scenarios. That first attack might have been the only scary attack. I wonder if ArT's gonna try and go maybe in Disruptors? If he did, I think he would have already slapped down the robotics base, so nope. When an all-in fails, just all-in again. But 3 shield battery overcharge, and a second Void Ray about to pop. He is showcasing some fancy footwork, though. That Warp Prism saving a lot of units, and the shield battery overcharge is forced, so it won't be available for this third attack, I guess. And Harstem is running low on units. He was already on a low number of attacking units. The Sentry is not really helpful as far as their Tickle Beam damage, but now they're also not helpful because they have no energy. No great force fields, not even a Guardian Shield. This one's gonna try and force field something, but that can only contribute so much, right? Prismatic alignment is a hell of a thing, though. And the Void Rays are getting hella damage on a lot of units, but not quite killing any of them. And now themselves are getting Focus Fire down. 4 shield batteries out of juice. And ArT has made this work. I did not see that one coming, but he just got too many units. And the Void Rays taken down. GG. Woo-hoo-hoo. Got timed out on ESL for calling Harstem Flaming Lips. I mean, if he wasn't in on it, then it would be seen as pretty rude, right? Like, if it's the opposite, and Harstem actually was really self-conscious about his lip size, just a weird sentence, then, you know, that would be a dick move, right? So it's pretty much always on the safe side to assume to time out any comments on appearance. This series has ended up closer than I expected. I didn't think that ArT was going to just fall over, get 3-0'd. Or if it was a 3-0, I think they would be really close games. But I did think that Harstem was going to win. Probably 3-1 if I had thrown out a guess early on. But now we're at 2-2. And it truly is anyone's PvP to win. Bottom right, ArT's. Top left of Berlingrad is Harstem. And, this is the upper bracket, so don't fear Harstem fans. I assume there's a lot more Harstem fans than ArT fans. ArT has yet to make really all that much of a name for himself. He's on his way, though. He's definitely hitting better and better results over the last year. But Harstem, not only one of the most well-liked players of StarCraft 2 history, also exploded a couple years ago with his media content creation, so. I'm not sure who they'd fall down to face. Apparently either King Cobra or Exo Striker. Both Protosses, but both, I think, very winnable series. So we got ArT's first probe going in a kind of suspicious direction. Suspicious for itself, or suspicious of something that Harstem is doing. I would say it's usually more suspicious for himself, though. It's almost never the case that a Protoss player proxies this early on. Well, actually, no. No, I think he would be building a second pylon here. So this might just be for proxy Stargate Scout. But he could also do something of his own here, even if it is just hiding his own pylon. And there was at least one game, the Pride of Alteris game, I believe, which included a very, very late scout from ArT. So Harstem's the one that's going to eventually see the lack of second pylon. I wonder what that could mean. But Harstem's going for a one-base Stargate opener, no bother with the proxy. And he's not gonna get scouted. No, he is gonna get scouted. Oh, the adepts aren't gonna pop out in time. Is Harstem gonna scout the pylon? Seems like he will. Just barely. Just barely not. Oh, he does block out the probe. I mean, ArT sees that there's no nexus. There's not even a pylon down in the nexus quite yet. You know, be awfully suspicious of it still not being a nexus. It's still not being a nexus. And that usually only means... Not only means, because he didn't see if the second pylon was proxied or not, but it does often mean one base Stargate. I think this is really worrying for ArT because he didn't see if the second pylon was proxied, so he might be a little scared. He's gonna send a hallucination soon enough. And, well, the only thing I would say that, like, ArT would be really scared, like really, really scared, is not just because of the lack of scouting, but also the lack of pylon at the front. So he can't just build a default safe shield battery. And he's not doing the default safe shield battery in the main either, but he is timing this out really, really well. This is really well timed out. So this would hit on this map around 340 if it's a one base in base Stargate. And ArT predicted that beautifully. Because that was also happening as his hallucination scouted the Stargate, so... I'm gonna guess he really did just do kind of the checklist of what it isn't so far, and then what could it be, and he got to the Oracle attack eventually. Really nicely done. So Harstem's not gonna bother investing into a second Oracle to do damage. By the looks of things, he's already on to his Twilight Council, and wants to use 150 for Blink. He does get a safe shield battery in the natural, something that Harstem has been doing, I think, every single game. And ArT has not, and still isn't. That's a bit bold, but he's gonna get away with it. And now that he has very dependable scouting, he kind of knows that he can get away with it. So he's got more probes, a couple more probes, but nonetheless more probes. He's got faster blink, and he's actually adding on a faster robo than I would have expected. He might chrono out a Warp Prism then, and go for an attack on that third base, or the would-be third base, I should say. Oh, Adepts get in. Yeah, is it worth a shade? Yeah, they get close enough to the probe line. So 4 probes would be nice. Almost guaranteed. There we go. And also a scout. Sees that it's a robo. Looks like Harstem's gonna get his own robo too. And this might be to chrono out an immortal. I don't think they're both worried that much about Dark Shrine. Could be wrong. That's always an option. Sometimes pylon counting continues on to, I think, the 4th pylon. If you see that's missing, you can determine that it's a proxy Dark Shrine. Where's the 5th pylon? Shit. I have to recheck. But, yeah. Seeing a robo. Kind of a quicker gateway, whereas Harstem's extra 2 are coming down just now. It's just an observer, though. Just an observer, so never mind, never mind. Alright, gets a 3rd. Harstem is going to get his own 3rd soon-ish. The third reason that I thought that ArT was going to be aggressive is that he has not thrown out a forge. It just seems to go later forges every time. We do often see a push out, though. I feel like ArT should 100% push out into his 3rd base. Hallucination is going to see no shield battery prepared. But it's ArT who's building shield battery in the main and natural? Wait, did he cancel one? Oh, he built one in the main because of the Oracle. So yeah, that makes sense. But he's also building it in natural, I guess, again, because of the Oracle. Now he moves out, but this is pretty late. Stasis Trap is on its way. Shield battery's now halfway done. I don't know, I thought that was going to be sooner. Good trigger on that Stasis Trap, though. Beautiful. Beautiful blink. And this might still be good enough times. Shield battery's still not done. At this point, it can be targeted fired super easily. Another great pop on a Stasis Trap. And this is what I thought ArT was going to do. I just predicted it a bit too early. So Pylon goes down, actually. So it doesn't matter. The shield battery finished up. And ArT is currently winning the number of soccer wars, right? 7 soccers to 10. Harstem's pretty desperate to hold on to this. His Immortal finally joins the fray, something that I thought he was going to get, but even that was a little bit later. And he's going to have to cancel what was a 50% Nexus or something along those lines. He really just like a lot of damage there. Absolutely. And again, we have a similar situation to a couple of the previous games, which is that Harstem has faster upgrades. And that sometimes has been just his general lead, or it's been the only thing that he has against his opponent. In this game, it's not the only thing. The other thing that he did get, and this was quite risky from him, was he got a very fast robotics bay. I mean, before his third base was done, it's pretty damn quick. So the number of disruptors is going to be limited, of course, initially. And they're not going to be double robo production because you really can't afford it. But it is going to be disruptors nonetheless, and maybe that is going to change how this next battle goes. As ArT still has not gotten a Forge, and is just chronoing out that charge, finally getting that War Prism, and is going to go for the follow-up attack to actually kill Harstem. And I think it might work. Did ArT see the robotics bay? He did. So he knows that there's actually a pretty vulnerable point right now. All he's got to do is make sure not to take the most egregious disruptor shots to the face, and the number of units that he has will more than make up for the upgrade and technology advantage that Harstem has. That is a bold blink for someone who knows disruptors could be on the field. My god. Look how many units there are. 28 stalkers. And going right after the single disruptor. ArT's gonna take this best of 5, man. No shield battery overcharge, as that one was still producing. Actually, it comes into the last second, but even Harstem knows that's not going to be enough. GG. Harstem falls down to the lower bracket, where, as I said, I think he wins that PvP down there, whoever he's facing. But not a comfortable position. So he's going to face King Cobra. It's the only slot available.